Good evening to all the listeners today. So, welcome to our 9th episode of Health Huddle. As you can see, today the topics will be about does the genetics equals to the future? So, today the episode will be hosted by me and our science officer Vishala. And then today we'll do a little bit different. We will be using slides so that it's easier for all of you to look at the info that we're going to sharing. So today we will be mainly talk about this topic is actually suggested by one of our listener, I think a few weeks ago, and we thought it's going to be interesting for us to explore together the application of genetics, and thus the genetics represent the future of how our life is going, or maybe how the world is moving forward. So we'll be sharing some of the example. Vishala today will share with us some very scientific example, while I'll be sharing a little bit more like fun stuff, where some of it is already happening right now. We can imagine what could be happen in the future. Okay, so my name is Shian. Vishala is our science officer of the company.
Hello.
And yep. So I think without further ado, we will start slowly about the topic today. So as we enter the world of 2031, I think we get a huge bump of the field of technology. I think since last year, after the pandemic, like maybe in the normal days, we will not do like Facebook Live right now. We will probably open up like a workshop, doing sharing to people physically. But then technology had changed the way we approach our daily life, and then which in these slides is about and anything that we share today related to cloud technology, like the data that we store in Google Drive, in iCloud, is related to cloud technology. But then cloud technology related to almost everything that we use right now. But could be the day where everything that we use right now also one day related back to DNA or genetics. And that is the topic that we're going to discuss today. Does genetics represent the future for the world and also for the human race? So, just to briefly go through for the audience about what is DNA or what does genetic mean. So, DNA essentially codes for our body. So, our body is made up of a lot of cells, and then each carry a lot of genetic information. So, this is like I think a secondary school thing where we used to study genes consists of a lot of information in DNA, and we have like this chromosome, and it is inside the cell, and our body is made up of a lot of different cells. So as human, like me and Vishala, although we look different, like you probably look different with your friends, but we are actually 99% genetically identical. Is that 1% difference makes like me and Vishala so different in terms of our hairstyle, in terms of our skin, in terms of how we behave. So that 1% is actually making the difference among people. So and that difference normally come in the difference of the pairing. So if you go back to study about like maybe secondary school or even primary school, we will study about this 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁 stuff. So different pairing is actually making the difference of in our DNA. So DNA was a big wasn't a big topic, I would say, maybe before 1990s, but then during 1990, the world started this project called Human Genome Project, which this Human Genome Project brings the life towards our curiosity about genetics. And then I will let Vishala to talk about what is exactly this Human Genome Project means.
Okay, so the Human Genome Project actually started in 1990, and the aim was to actually sequence the human DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been 21 years. So where
Yeah.
have we come so far? And how has it helped in terms of in terms of medical genetics, I would say, or genetic medicine? So if you look at it, drug therapy, now we can design accurate and individualized treatment for people, and then it has also helped in prevention, so like something
Mm-hmm.
that we do, identify genetic makeup that increases your risk to certain diseases. And then, even in cancer, now we are able to identify certain genetic traits or certain genetic codes that increases your chance of getting a certain type of cancer, whether it's nasopharyngeal cancer or breast cancer. I think even breast cancer, your family can go for, if someone in your family is diagnosed with breast cancer, the members of the family can actually go for some kind of test to see if they carry the specific gene.
Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of prevention, and then, like I said, also new drugs can be produced by, detailed molecular understanding of common diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure in pharmacogenomics. So what is pharmacogenomics? Is like drugs like cancer will be matched to a patient's likely response. So at the end of the day, you want the person to have a good response, and at the same time, they should not have any adverse effects, like, maybe
Yep.
it should not damage their liver and all that. So in this goes down to your genetics, actually. Actually now in certain countries, if I'm not mistaken, like in the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
it's something like your identification card, your IC, like that. They have like certain genetic codes or your pharmacogenomic codes that you can actually take that, and you can go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist can check and see, okay, you may be having an adverse reaction to this drug or that drug, so they can suggest something else for you.
Yeah.
So that's how far we have came, and how much the Human Genome Project has actually contributed to genetic medicine, and also in like gene therapy, for curing diseases in the molecular level, so that we better understand the underlying causes will lead to better therapies, lah. And because rationally designed drugs are more likely to act very much specifically and having less damaging side effects. So if you can see some of the older therapies last time, right, like even cancer, I think like chemo and all that, they said it can also kill your good cells as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So in trying to help a patient to recover, in medically, so they are trying to do their best so that it doesn't kill all the good ones as well. Only targeted, that means only kill what it needs to kill. So with gene therapy and all that, today we are able to do that. I mean, we are moving towards that.
Yeah.
And this is
So
thanks to the Human Genome Project, lah, which,
yep.
gave us the sequence.
Yep. So just like Vishala was explaining about all the application that we have started to use, like gene therapy, targeted cell therapy, it wouldn't happen if there's no Human Genome Project. So what we are trying to say is, although we have come a long way, but then if you look at the years we studied about human genome, it's only started around, the whole project started around 1990. It's about 31 years ago. And the first draft of DNA sequence of human genome is released. It's actually on the year of 2000. So we are not like very far away from the first draft of DNA sequence being released. But then so much has happened within these 21 years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Later we'll talk about one of the biggest breakthrough of the technology in the genetics. But then this is how all the researchers was trying to enter these spaces, but all thanks to the Human Genome Project, which spends resources and a lot of funding to fund this project, and then it actually brings a lot of value to the research, and possibly in the future of better medication and better therapy. So, um, so we would like to talk about this one fun fact, right? How much different between human, chimpanzee, mice, and banana. So we know that among human, like me and Vishala, we are 99% the same. We are only different by 1%. But what if we compare us with chimpanzee, mice, and banana? So I actually made these slides when I was having a sharing session in IMU with a pharmacy student. So humans shares about 96% of our DNA with chimpanzee, 90% with mice, and 60% with banana. So this actually explains why chimpanzees are quite intelligent. They are actually very close to human. If you remember, there's a movie called The Planet of
Apes.
Apes, I think. So it talks about like human versus the apes, and then in the movie itself, the apes are able to speak English properly. So I think this is why this explain actually we are the chimpanzee DNA are sort of just 4% different from us. And then I also saw this saying like if human wasn't that advanced a bit, today we could probably in the zoo, and then chimpanzee is the one that rules the world. So yeah, this is some fun things I want to share. Okay, so next, this is the technology that we talked about, the real breakthrough. One of the biggest breakthrough of genetics is actually CRISPR. So Vishala, do you want to share about what CRISPR means?
Yes. So the CRISPR technology, or the CRISPR-Cas9, if you know, last year, when we were, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, but when
Yep.
last year, the inventors of this particular technology actually won the Nobel Prize. And what is the very interesting thing about this technology is actually that it allows researchers to easily alter DNA sequences and modify the gene function.
Mm,
So, how do I say? It's like a genetic scissors, the Cas9, especially, that's a protein that it can cut out a particular sequence in the DNA and eliminates it completely.
yeah.
Okay?
So I think in a really layman term, it's just like we cut something
Mm.
and then we replace it with another sequence, right?
Correct. Yeah, it can be removed. It can be altered. Like one of the other things. One of the other examples that I read today is, how you go to your Word document and you need to find a particular word and you want to
Yeah.
change it. So you press Control F and then you decide to change the word or alter the word or delete the word. It's something like that. The analogy is something like that.
Yeah. So I think CRISPR are like or in scientific way, we talk about gene editing.
Mm.
So um, this is a more professional illustration of the actual what is CRISPR.
Mm.
But then for the normal people, you can just imagine CRISPR is like gene editing. Basically, you cut something,
Yeah. So it's a very precise cut.
you
The
try to replace
Cas9
something.
protein. Yeah, it's a very precise cutting lah, actually.
Yep. So so this is one of the news posted, I think, in Science
The
magazine
trial is a clinical trial. Yeah.
last year. Vishala shared this to me, I think, last night, and then it was actually a very interesting trial. Vishala, would you like to talk more about this?
Yes. So if you like look at this person here, this is her name is Victoria Gray, and she has had sickle cell anemia.
Mm,
And so she was going to the doctors. Getting hospitalized, getting treatments in and out of the hospital. So the doctors suggested this particular therapy, the CRISPR therapy, for her sickle cell disease. So they genetically modified and injected it to her. So it's quite interesting that now apparently after a year it hardly actually affects her actually, and they've seen tremendous improvement. It has elevated some of most of her symptoms actually,
mm.
and she's doing much better compared to where she was. So this is showing how CRISPR technology is already in clinical trials lah,
Yep.
in
So
overseas.
I think this CRISPR technology enable a lot of possibility and imagination.
Yes.
So previously, like a lot of people will say what I born with is something that I can't change, especially DNA, right? Like
Yes.
how can I change my DNA without going into that particular cell and change it? So this is where it brings to the scientist's imagination of what if one day we could actually edit our own DNA, and that becomes CRISPR. So we are still at a very infant stage of CRISPR, I would say.
Yes.
There are
Yes.
a lot of trial is going on using CRISPR technology. But of course, when a new technology comes in, there's always the pro side and also the con side. So I think this is a very famous news when they publish. Is I think this happened in China, right?
Yes. Yes. Correct. In China.
So this particular case happened in China was about this genome edited baby. When this news came out, it creates a lot of hype around. Do we finally able to choose what we want in our DNA? But of course, this has provoked a lot of outcry from the ethical part. So this professor, what was his name again?
𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗁𝗀.
Yeah. So this Dr. 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗁𝗀, is he the one that does this experiment?
Yes. So what he did was, he and his two collaborators, they actually forged ethical review documents and mislead doctors into unknowingly implanting gene-edited embryos into two women.
Okay.
Yeah. So so the concern here, why it became a public outcry is this. So if we look at the CRISPR system, right? The technology I'm talking about, they normally edited the somatic cells and not the germline cells. So somatic cells, which is not the egg and the sperm. It's every others besides these reproductive cells. So and normally that's what they do. So when they edit the somatic cells, it stays with you and it doesn't get passed down. But then when you edit the germline cells, it gets passed down. It's permanent, it gets passed down through generations. So scientists are like, scientists actually said, it's the technology is still very in an infancy for us to do something like this. What if 10-15 years down the line there is some kind of mutation that happens, and the life of the girls, it would have definitely affect them and their generations below, because it's permanent. So that is where the ethical concerns actually came. And in China, actually, due to this illegal medical practices they call, this doctor and two of his collaborators are sentenced to 3 years in prison.
So when I was researching about this topic, so I typed in the doctor name, and the first Google suggestion search was is Doctor what his name again? Doctor
𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗁𝗀.
is Doctor 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗁𝗀𝗁𝗀 missing. So I guess this CRISPR technology does bring a lot of imagination for us. But then, if this CRISPR technology was used in a bad situation, it could potentially become a weapon, right?
Correct.
It could potentially become a weapon that probably create another chaos even bigger than COVID-19 pandemic to the human race. So I guess this is that is why we are discussing this topic today. What we look forward for the future, but then as far as we are concerned, I think a lot of ethical issue we have to solve before we actually move into using a lot of this genetic technology to be able to.
Must have like proper regulation in place lah, because what if people who can afford it decide to have like what they call as designer babies, who are much stronger, much attractive, then in the society itself, right, it can increase like inequality. That means if someone doesn't look as strong or as nice, then it's going to create some kind of social issues later on as well. So there must be proper regulations. And even I heard in certain countries, you're not allowed to do CRISPR on human reproduction cells, because they don't want this kind of social issues to come up later.
Yeah, I think not only scientists, even the government
Regulators, yeah.
are still looking at this, and then how do we regulate this? So I think as human race advances, we always need to step back to look at the ethical side.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is about the CRISPR technology that we talk about. It's more towards the sciencey part, but then we want to provide you the insights about what does the CRISPR technology can bring for our future. So for all the audience listen here, if you have any question about this CRISPR technology, or if you have any question for us, you can always do your comment down here. So after this, we'll be sharing a lot more lifestyle fun thing, like how genetics has started to invade different industry. So before that, we will talk about another fun fact about DNA. So we know that our DNA store a lot of information, but then how much of the DNA, how much of the data does our DNA actually generates? So I also presented this to when I was sharing a session in IMU. None of the people got correct because we just couldn't imagine how much of the data that one person genome can generate. When we sequence a person genome, it actually generate around 200 gigabytes of data, and 200 gigabytes of data, you just imagine it probably equals to a iPhone 12, which is 256 gigabyte. So that is how many data that our DNA information is stored. So although we just started the research like 31 years ago about Human Genome Project, we are still yet to find out a lot of information about our genetics. So the next thing about a real world use case, I'm not sure does it still available, is 2 years ago, I think it's around 2019. So Spotify started this collaboration with Ancestry.com. So Ancestry.com is a US company who provide DNA tests for you to find your ancestry. Like what is your root? Could you be like 1% Portuguese or 2% whatever country? So Spotify started this collaboration with Ancestry is to use your DNA to tell your musical DNA. So meaning that you can, okay, so let's say today you took a test of Ancestry DNA test kit. And then after that you upload your data to maybe Spotify. And then Spotify will, based on your DNA profile, suggest what kind of music is suitable for you, what kind of playlist you might want to explore, and maybe what type of music can make you more calm, more concentrate on your work. So this is very interesting use case. Company like Spotify are actually using DNA profiling to be able to tell what sort of music that you are suitable for. So just based on this scenario, for the audience here, you can actually imagine what genetics can actually bring to our future. So I'll leave it to all of you to imagine yourself. But this is one of the very interesting use case, Spotify and Ancestry. And the next thing is, I think last week when I was browsing through my Netflix, and I saw this new drama called The One. So for the audience here, if you aren't on Netflix, you probably never heard this drama before. I think it's a relatively new drama, and this The One drama. I personally haven't watched it yet, but then the description is pretty interesting. So The One, this Netflix, if you're interested, please check it out. It's actually a movie about this woman. She's a company of she's a CEO of a company that use DNA for matchmaking. So this is presented in a movie, but then in the actual case, we actually got company that provide this kind of services. So if you look at this, like if you search GenePartner Japan, so GenePartner Japan is a company in Japan which they use DNA matchmaking process. So this meaning that you have a Tinder, but Tinder is like a dating app where you choose your partner based on their profile, based on their hobbies, or even based on their look. But then this GenePartner, what it does is you can submit your DNA profile, and then they can, based on your DNA profile, and tells you, okay, this partner could be the partner that you're looking for. So, meaning that they are matchmaking you based on your DNA profile, maybe based on your characteristics, maybe also based on genetically inherited disease, or they also, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe in the future on the back end, like if I submit my DNA profile, Vishala submit her DNA profile, on the back end cloud system, they can match these two DNA profile together to foresee what sort of children they might have. I think this is something that we probably can imagine, in the future. So this is also another very interesting use case, is matchmaking using DNA profile. But of course, whenever there's a new thing coming up, there's always something that we all need to be concerned of. So just to briefly go through why DNA test kit could be one of the future for matchmaking. So this Professor Ricky Lewis, he mentioned that it's actually theoretically, selection of serotonin transporter gene does make a little sense in terms of doing matchmaking. But then Prof. Lewis also mentioned this could be still very early to tell. So by using DNA profiling for matchmaking could be a gimmick, but looking into the future, maybe 20 years down the road, it can be a real thing, right? So this is also another use case scenario where we could foresee in the future DNA profiling can be used as one of the factors for matchmaking. So the last example I would like to share is something very close to Malaysia, or something very, very close to us. So FarmFresh, Vishala, do you heard of this brand before? FarmFresh?
Yes, it's a quite a very well known brand in most of the Malaysian supermarkets. You can actually get it.
Yep. So I started to know about FarmFresh, I think maybe a few years back when I was still studying in USM. But I started to get interested about this company. So I do a lot of research about FarmFresh previously. And then little did I know that before FarmFresh exists, Malaysia actually don't provide fresh milk. So what we talk about fresh milk means milk that is delivered to consumer, and you need to consume maybe within 7 days. That is what we call fresh milk. A lot of other brands like Dutch Lady, what else? Other brand, Dutch Lady. Because honestly, I only drink FarmFresh right now. So, okay, let's talk about other different brands like Dutch Lady. All of the fresh milk could be imported. So technically, based on FarmFresh point of view, it's not fresh. So FarmFresh wanted to become the local Malaysian company that really provide fresh milk to people. So Azmi Zainal is one of the founder and COO of FarmFresh. So what he mentioned is, since they started the company, they already rear up to 5,000 genetically modified cows, which is using potentially gene editing or even research into combining different variants. So if you look at here, they actually combine two different species. So one is called fresh Shian, and the other one is called 𝗙liche𝗹𝗹𝗁, which is an Australian type of cow. So previously, the challenges of having fresh milk in Malaysia is we couldn't sustain the cow from Australia, maybe due to the weather, maybe due to the water over here. So through the collaboration with FarmFresh and UPM, they are actually able to genetically modify one type of cow which is able to survive in Malaysia and provide good enough production of milk. And because of this, we have the real fresh milk in Malaysia, which is right now called FarmFresh. And also the reason why I only drink FarmFresh is because I think I do have lactose intolerance, and when I look through the brands, I think only FarmFresh provide lactose-free
Yeah, I
milk.
think I've seen that as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is the only type of fresh milk that I drink right now. So this is a use case in Malaysia. I think very close to a lot of Malaysians who actually drink milks. So Farm Fresh actually use GMO cows to be able to allow their cow to be able to survive in the Malaysia weather. So so genetics doesn't only applies on the human races, but it also applies onto plants, applies onto animal, which maybe a lot of us don't know. But then, like Genting Plantation, they actually invest heavily into research into like palm oil. How do they grow a better palm oil, fruits, or even rubber tree? So to sort of conclude at the end of our session today, I think genomic technology for the future application in the medical side, as far as we are in the space, we could definitely see personalized medicine coming in. We could also definitely see targeted cell therapy, which already happening in a lot of Western countries. We also will be seeing a lot of rare diseases getting cured by using genetic technology. Cancer therapy is another big thing, which I personally felt that in the next 10 to 20 years, this will be a very big thing for cancer therapy using a lot of genetic technology. And lastly, so this is something suggested by Vishala, is about anti-aging. So what does a genomic technology would potentially contribute to anti-aging?
So, if you look at the CRISPR technology, I mean, anti-aging, what they have found is certain genes switching off, certain genes are switching off when you get older. That's why you're more prone to diseases like diabetes and all that. So maybe you never know, they may edit the genes and insert something from from your stem cell or something like that, that would switch it on back. And even though people, the human race, are living longer nowadays, but we spend a big chunk of it. I mean, the later part of it, a lot of us have underlying disease and all that.
Yep.
So hopefully with the CRISPR technology, that we can have a much healthier life. Because we can edit out certain genes that that will cause certain disease, or as you grow older, you're much prone to this disease and all that. So CRISPR technology can help that. And it doesn't only stop with disease and all, anti-aging, wrinkles, you never know that maybe one day you can choose to look, I don't know, 20 when you're actually 70 or 60 and things like that. I know it certainly doesn't sound so convincing now, but we have came a long way since the Human Genome Project in the 1990, and the whole sequence being done in 2000. It's about 21 years. So you never know what the next 20 years will be. Maybe you hardly see anyone with gray hair. People, we only see people that
I mean,
like hair.
It also can allow us to imagine the future where we can be living longer, or I can stay as what I am right now, even when I was like 50 years old.
Correct, and you never know. It can change how things are now, because maybe retirement age may be much more older than, because you still have the energy, the strength, and things like that.
Yeah, and that time we'll definitely need Elon Musk to send us to Mars. I think we'll be heavily overly populated.
Correct. And maybe in that time, these technologies can actually alter our DNA, or make the necessary changes so that we are better prepared to stay in Mars. We can adapt to the climate there.
Yep. So, and then over here is a part where we can imagine ourselves. So the future technology could be, would there be a lot more GMO products coming up? Like, I think a lot of plant-based meat is coming up right now. Thus, DNA profiling matchmaking could be a lot more concise, which, who knows that one day, because of DNA matchmaking, we get lesser divorce, a more happy family.
Maybe.
We'll never know.
Correct.
The other thing is, I think this is something when I visited the China Gene Bank in Shenzhen. So one of the professor there, they said their motivation of doing a lot of this DNA research is actually to bring back some of the extinct species. So this is something stuck with me for a very long time. Is they have this ice age, the elephant. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the exact name for the species, but then their idea is to bring back the extinct species back to our current world by using genetic modified species, for example. So maybe Jurassic Park could be a real thing one day.
Yeah, it's called the mammoth, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the mammoth. So I think this will allow us to really imagine what will the future will be provided to us by advancing our genetic technology. So lastly, before we end the session, or we take any question, we also would like to share something that we are going to launch very, very soon. So I'll take this our Dr. 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗀 cases. So we talk about how genetics can be contributed to cancer therapy, but we also can contribute to identify the risk of getting cancer. So Dr. 𝗙𝗲𝗁𝗀𝗀 was actually diagnosed with this nose cancer, or in the scientific terms we call nasopharyngeal cancer. I think at year 2018. So this nasopharyngeal cancer is sort of very heavily linked to genetics. It's actually the second most frequent cancer among Malaysian male. Patient that diagnosed with nasopharyngeal cancer in Malaysia, 68% are actually Chinese male. So based on the research done in locally and also around the world, 1 in 20 of the nasopharyngeal cancer patient is actually genetically inherited. So meaning that Chinese male like me probably has higher chances of getting nasopharyngeal cancer as compared to the other races. So this is all down to genetics. And then, so when Advanx Health launched our first DNA test, our vision is always to help consumer to find out a lot more about yourself and then the risk. And one of the things that we always wanted to do is actually to launch a cancer report. So we are happy to have this collaboration with MGRC, Malaysian Genomic Resource Center. They are a public listed company. And then we are going to launch DNA Explorer Onco, which is an oncology, or we call a cancer report, combining of more than 30 different cancer risks. So it includes something like breast cancer, cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, kidney cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and many more. So this report will be able to give you a pictures about which cancer you might have that particular gene expression that cause you have a higher chances of getting that. This is not a diagnostic report, but it provides you a risk factor, or you can say it provides you a future that tells you about potentially there's a chance of you getting this particular cancer higher than the other people, and you can take prevention steps like maybe monitor yourself a lot more frequent. So right now we will be launching this to our customer first. All our existing customers will be able to add on like this cancer report. Just top up the fee they charge. For all the new customer, you can also buy this cancer report individually. So all we need is just your saliva sample. So if you're interested, you can actually reach out to us on hello@advancehealth.com, or you can check out our website, or you can follow our Facebook and share to your friends. So this is something very excited that we have actually planned this for a long time, and finally we have made this materialize to be able to launch a cancer report for our customer and also for people who are interested to find out about your risk. So that's it. I think this will be our Health Huddle episode 9 for today. Let's see if we have any question from the audience. So I think we have one question here. It's talking about do we think that DNA tests will be normalized and turned into a stable part of healthcare for general population in the future? Because right now it's limited to slightly more financially able people. Yep, Vishala, you have any thought on this question?
I think it would be. I I mean I think there would come a time that people may say that you should allow people to um do what they want. I mean, of course, with proper regulations. I mean, if they want to go for gene editing or if they want to incorporate the CRISPR technology and all that, it may come so much so it may become a norm, lah. People would like to select this, they want to delete that.
Yep.
They don't want they want to have stronger muscles or something like that. It may become a norm, but whatever it is, we should have a proper regulation in place before that happens.
Yeah.
Because like I said, everything is still in the early stage. We do not know later on, if down the line, if something goes wrong, any mutation goes wrong, and it causes more issues later on.
Mm.
So I think it would be, but it has to be done with proper regulations, lah.
Yeah.
And ethics as well. Yeah.
So my personal view is I think it's very similar when we started the company. Advanced Health actually always wanted to bring DNA tests more accessible to people, and that's why we trying to always reduce the cost and reduce the price to be a lot more friendlier to people. I think if today you were to take a cancer test maybe in US, it will cost like about $1,000 US, for example, but then over here we try to make it the US dollar become Malaysian ringgit.
Okay.
So I think it will definitely bring down the cost down if a lot more people are trying wanted to do the testing. We have been partnering with a lot of partners around Malaysia to provide DNA tests more accessible to people. If today you walk into, like for example, Caring Pharmacy, Caring Pharmacy also do sell DNA tests right now. I think it will getting a lot more common. But my personal point of view is DNA tests will be a lot more valuable moving into the clinical part. Right now, of course, like targeted cell therapy, CAR-T cell therapy for cancer is very expensive. Like we are talking about 6 digit. But when the technology become a lot more mature, I would say one day DNA tests or genetic testing will be very, very common. It could be, what I imagine is, it could be when you're born or when you reach a certain age, everyone is required to do a DNA profiling.
Yeah.
Because based on that, when you let's say you admit into hospital or you go to see a doctor, doctor can based on your profile do a better judgment on. We talk about personalized medicine, right? So we will know exactly what sort of medication will be suitable for this particular patient.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
I'm a pharmacist by professional. Precision medicine is a very big thing to us, what we call personalized medicine. And personalized medicine will never will never be able to achieve without having a proper DNA profiling. So I think my personal point of view is definitely to make DNA tests a lot more accessible to people, and then one day we will allow everyone to have a test done. Yep. So I think that will bring us to the end of the session today. So for those who are still listening, if you missed our first part, you can always listen back what we've shared. So just to conclude everything we have shared about Human Genome Project very early on. Then after that, we talk about this gene editing method called CRISPR, and we give you a few of example of gene edited baby, or how this CRISPR can potentially be a big thing into solving diseases like sickle cell anemia. And then we also talk about very interesting real case scenario about genetic technology. It's about Spotify able to use your DNA profile to recommend music to you. We talk about DNA matchmaking, which currently make into a movie called The One. So you can type The One Netflix, you'll be able to see this drama. After that, we talk about the case in Malaysia where a company like Farm Fresh, how they're able to provide Malaysian the real fresh meat by using genetically modified cow. And then lastly, we talk about the cancer that we are going to launch very soon. So for those who are interested in getting your own cancer DNA report, you can contact us at hello@advancehealth.com, or if you are our existing customer, you'll be able to receive our newsletter very soon. For new customer, please check out our website, or you can follow on our Facebook. We will be doing the launch very soon. So I think that's it for our session. Vishala, do you have any other thing to share?
No, nothing. I mean, nothing much. Going back to our topic, is genetics the future? I think it is. It will be a stepping stone to other genetic discovery. Like, now epigenetic is also a in thing. And then, your gut microbiome can also tell you a lot of things. So I think genetic will, pave the way for other discoveries as well.
Yep.
So it's also in the future. Like it is the future, I would say.
So to wrap things up, I would like to thank Vishala joining us for the 9th episode of Health Huddle. Do look forward for our 10th episode. We will be announcing the topic very soon. And thank you for all the audience who stay with us until now today. If you are interested, if you think this episode is interesting, please share it to your friends, and you can always listen back the live after this. So thank you, Vishala. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night and stay safe.
Times we might see this in movie, but in actual, there are people who has this properties, but not as exaggerated as in the movies. But if you go check them out in YouTube, it's